Okay, Chazak Baruch and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Metzora. Parashat Metzora. Interestingly, by the way, our Parashat deals with, like we spoke about, how to become clean if somebody has the affliction, the nega of Tzaraat, of leprosy, or similar to leprosy. Although we keep saying leprosy, it's not actual leprosy, but we say leprosy. So the person has something similar to leprosy, and our Parasha deals with the purification process. And my father has told me that one time as a child, he remembers walking next to his father and his grandpa, and as they were walking, he overheard them talking about Parashat Tahara. And my father found that very interesting. He doesn't remember learning about Parashat Tahara, so he quickly ran to the Chumash. My father grabbed it open and he started flipping through it. Unfortunately, he couldn't find Parashat Tahara. So he went to his dad. He said, "Dad, what is that Parasha? Parasha called Tahara doesn't exist." And my grandpa smiled and he said that many people refer to Parashat Metzora as in lieu of Metzora, they use Tahara because Metzora refers to the negative, to the affliction. Tahara is what he has to do. He becomes clean. The Parasha deals with becoming clean, so focusing on the positive, being optimistic as opposed to being pessimistic, etc., etc. So many refer to our Parasha as Parashat Tahara, to become clean, to dwell on the positive in life is something that's so beautiful and so powerful. And today I would actually like to talk about these points because our Parasha could seem very frightening in the beginning. When we speak about a nega, affliction, we don't want to go there. We want to avoid such parashiyot. The end of the Torah, the end of the book of Vayikra has kelalot, at the Parashat Bechukotai, all the curses that we read. If a person doesn't listen, there's going to be this curse, things that make your hair spike. I don't know if you ever read these verses. Open to the end of the book of Vayikra, and as well open to the end of Parashat Kitavo, all the curses that fall upon a person, frightening curses, the scariest curses, okay? Mothers will eat their children because there won't be any food. I mean, the scariest, right? And the problem is, when we're actually reading this Torah, the Parashiyot in real time, in the weekly portion on Shabbat, nobody wants to go up for these aliyot. No one wants to go up and read this. What are you giving me this curse for? Give me ve'iten lecha. Give me a bracha, Yaakov getting a blessing. Give me that aliyah. You giving me this curse? What are you giving me this aliyah for? People get offended sometimes that the Gabbai gives it to them. The custom in many places is that actually the Gabbai takes the aliyah himself, not to offend anybody. He goes over and says, "Here, bechavod, go ahead, read the curses. Love you, man. Have a good day. Go." You can get very offended. The Chafetz Chaim, however, used to have no problem going up. Chafetz Chaim would be happy to go up. Chafetz Chaim says, a person who closes their ears when they're reading these aliyot, that's the biggest mistake. You think by not hearing the curse, you're going to now avoid it? No. The best way to avoid the curse is to study it and to learn from it. So, I know nega seems like it's very uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about leprosy, we don't want to get there. But the truth is, if we study these Parashiyot well, we could come out with rechush gadol, with beautiful diamonds and jewels. There's a lot of positive things to take out of it. Matter of fact, the rabbis tell us that and this is discussed in our Parashah, one of the places that leprosy appeared on wasn't just a person's body or clothing, but they would even appear on a person's home. A person would have on his house, Tzaraat, this wall starts turning different colors. What's going on with the Benjamin Moore paint lately, right? It's not Benjamin Moore's fault. It's your fault. So he goes to the Kohen and he says, Kanega nereli babayit. I don't know what's going on, Mr. Kohen, but it seems like I have leprosy on my home. Okay, let's open to the Pasuk. Chapter 14, Pasuk 35. Okay, he comes to the Kohen and he says, something like a plague appears in my home. The Kohen commands that they empty out the house from all the furniture, and then he comes to see it, etc., etc., etc. And our rabbis over here have something beautiful to say. And our rabbis say that the leprosy that appears in a person's house is actually a blessing in disguise. You know why Hashem did this? Rashi says, quoting our rabbis, because when the Jewish people, Rashi Pasuk 34, Metzora lahem, this is actually announcement of good news, that you're going to get plagues in your house. How could that be good news? Who wants plagues in their home? Anyone here want molding? Nobody, right? Says Rashi, no, it's good news. Lefi shehetminu amoraim matmoniyot shel zahav bekirot batehem. The Arameans, before they knew the Jews were coming, so they hid all of the gold and treasures in the walls of their house, hoping that in a few decades the Jews will be expelled and they'll come back and reclaim all of their gold, all of their money. Unbelievable. So for 40 years that the Jews were in the desert, circling in the border, the Arameans started hiding, the Canaanim, the non-Jews in Israel, were hiding all of their money and gold in their house behind the wall. And all of a sudden, al yedei hanega, all of a sudden leprosy comes on the wall. The guy's so upset. Oh no, Hashem, why are you doing this to me? Boom! They break down the wall, and what comes pouring out? Gold. And the Jews became very wealthy. So this is a blessing in disguise. And the truth is, it's not only this nega. All the negaim that we study, if we study them well, if we analyze them well, we could come out much better with a lot of beautiful jewels and lessons to apply to our relationships in our lives. One of the relationships that we often have to work on most are our marriages. A lot of times when a couple is engaged, the engagement period is beautiful. And each fiance, the guy, the girl, they're head over heels, they're in love or infatuated, right? And they only see the good in the other person. And a lot of times, the friends and family around them are trying to give them warning signs like, hello, it's not good that he did that. That's a red flag. Maybe you should reconsider. And the girl's like, no, it's so cute that he orders for me. It's not controlling. He's just taking care of me, right? And each one is, all the flaws. Hello, she's very sloppy. I don't know if you could tell. He's like, no, she just wants, right? And that's because two reasons. We don't notice the flaws for two reasons. Number one, really each party is putting their best foot forward. So when we're engaged, we're showering every minute, Listerine strips, cologne, perfume, right? We're making sure we look good. We're on our best behavior. When something happens, we make sure not to say anything. Something spills, we're laughing it away. No problem, honey. I'll clean it up after you, right? And then, right, that's one reason. And the other reason of why we don't always see the flaws of the other person is A, they're not showing them to us, and B, there is something called, we just mentioned it, infatuation. Infatuation is a gift, something that we spoke about in the past, but it's worth speaking about again. Infatuation is something that Hashem created, that we have hormones, the chemicals in our body that cause a person to be in love. Now, love is the wrong word, but we use that word in English, to be in love with this other person, right? And then, oh my God, I want to be with her forever, and I want to give her everything, and she's the most amazing person, right? It's beautiful. But that actually it's fake. It's not real. It's like a drug. You ever took drugs? I hope not. But if you ever took drugs, if you ever drank alcohol and got drunk, you know that what happens when a person is drugged is that they don't feel pain. Maybe a person took a Percocet, right? Person doesn't feel pain, right? That's what a drug does. Person's, high on alcohol, they're drunk maybe, and all of a sudden they wake up the next day with a hangover, and they're like, oh my gosh, my arm is dislocated, what happened? And they're like, dude, you jumped off the table yesterday at the party, you fell, you broke your arm, you didn't even feel it, you were just laughing it off. The guy's like, what? I broke my arm? I don't even remember that. Like, of course you don't, you drank 18 shots, right? So when a person is drunk, at the moment, they don't feel the pain. When a person's infatuated, infatuation is a gift that Hashem created to give marriage a chance. Because honestly, if you think about it, there's no reason in the world a person would want to get married. If you're talking to your friend who's a single, who's a bachelor or bachelorette, and they're telling you, no, I don't want to get married, it doesn't make sense, they're right. It doesn't make sense. Marriage does not make sense. Why in the world would I move into a house with somebody who is different than me, opposite world of me, different gender, right? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We're just so different. We think differently. Think of your three best friends. Who are your three best friends? Think of them quickly. Okay? 9 out of 10 times, they're the same gender as you. Right? That's who we hang out with. We think alike as the same gender. We get along with the same gender. Right? All of a sudden, you're asking me now to live and move in for not a week or a month or a year, but for the rest of my life with somebody else. It's crazy. Hashem knew it's crazy. So Hashem created this trick called infatuation, hormones that get us to want to love this person and want to be with this person forever. That's why Hashem created those feelings that one has for another. And with those feelings, now we're like a little bit drunk or drugged, and we're willing to give this a chance. So that's why when we're going out with this person, we don't always see their flaws, right? Other people see it because they're not infatuated, but we don't see it. We don't feel the pain, so to speak. So things that are there, right? Flaws, anger, controlling, manipulative, lazy, unmotivated, those things that are there when we're infatuated look like very small things. No big deal, no big deal, no big deal. And a lot of times, just because, right? And by the way, everyone has things. It's important to know that. There is no one perfect. So everyone has things. The point's not that if you find that thing, then, break up. Oh, that's it, divorce, break up, they have flaws. Of course not, everyone has flaws. Some things, okay, big deal, so they have this flaw. It's something that we're going to have to work through. Both have to work through. One was going to have to work on that negative trait, and the other one's going to have to learn on overlooking and ignoring maybe, and not saying anything, right? So that's what marriage is. Marriage is work. But when each party, when we're engaged in the early stages of a relationship, when we're head over heels, we don't see the flaws for what they really are. They're very small. We don't feel the pain. But what happens is you get married, and then the drug wears off, and the infatuation is gone. And when that happens, we wake up the morning after, and we are sobered up, and all of a sudden, what happened? My arm's killing me, right? And we all of a sudden notice, holy cow, who is this monster that I'm married to? Where did my beautiful wife go? Where did my amazing husband go? Who are you? You're not him. You're not her, right? Our rabbis say, maybe half jokingly, when Yaakov woke up, he realizes it's not Rachel. It's Leah. Where did Rachel go? And that is what happens to every single husband and wife. They wake up the morning after the wedding. Whoa, where's Rachel? Where's my wife? Where'd she go? This is not who I thought I was marrying. Where's all the compliments that I was getting? Where's that sweet, understanding person? All of a sudden I'm getting attacked, and all of a sudden they're not as thoughtful, as considerate. So what happens is, so for these two reasons, a lot of times in the early stages, either we're putting our best foot forward, and we don't notice the flaws as big as they really are, and then the drug wears off. And all of a sudden, we wake up and we notice all the negaim. We notice all of the afflictions. We notice all of the problems in this other person. Okay, and we say, oh my gosh, look at this flaw, look at this flaw. What are we to do? And when a couple is not prepared the right way, whenever I marry people off, I guess I kind of insist on having a crash course with the husband, with the kala and chatan, the bride and groom together, and I discuss some of these important points, because a lot of times when they're not prepared and they're not told these very important things, so they could wake up a week or a month after the marriage, and all of a sudden they have no idea how to approach these feelings that are fading. They don't know what's going on. Where's the love? Where's everything going? Where are the feelings? Where are all the positive, good emotions that were there? Where'd they go? Right? So it's important that we we learn about these things, we teach our children about these things, or ourselves if we're getting engaged, or if we're in the Parsha of Shidduchim, right? So what is the solution to these negaim? How does one approach in a marriage or in any relationship flaws that we start noticing in the other person? So the first piece of advice, the first thing to notice right here, is when the guy comes to the Kohen and he says to him, I have a plague in my house. And don't we all feel like that? I have a plague in my house. My wife, my husband, my kids, everyone's just all wired up. I have a plague in my house. It's very interesting to notice. The guy doesn't say to the Kohen, Nega nir'eli babayit. He doesn't say, I have a plague in my house. He adds one letter. Look at the pasuk. If you're following along, pasuk 35. He says, Ka nega nir'eli babayit. What does the word ka mean? What does the letter chaf add in Hebrew? Anyone know Hebrew? If you speak Hebrew, what does chaf add to a word? Right? Like, very good, Lina. Like a nega. And what this person is saying, I have something that is appearing as a nega in my house. Why does he say that? Why are you saying like an affliction? Say, I have a plague. No, it's like a plague. There's a beautiful story told. One of my favorite stories on the entire topic of gossip. This is one of them. This is one of my favorite stories of gossip. Okay? The story is about a man on a train. And you know, back then, 50 years ago, it's not like today's subways. Today the subway stops at a station for 10 seconds and then it moves on. Back then, when the train stopped at each location, it would stop for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And everyone would get off, get a drink, they'd come back on. Anyways, this man was sitting there, he's traveling, and he's sitting right across from the saintly Chafetz Chaim. And as they're sitting, there's different versions of this story, but I'm going to share with you the way I first heard it. As they're sitting on the train, the Chafetz Chaim starts striking a conversation with this man, and this man has no idea that he's sitting right across from the Chafetz Chaim. So the Chafetz Chaim says, where are you from? Where you headed? Min Wenjaye, Fen Rayeh, right? Like we say in the Haggadah. So the guy says, I'm going to visit the city of Radin. He says, wow, Radin, that's a very small town. What brings you to Radin? They don't really have much, history or culture or sites. What are you going to Radin for? And the guy says, I'm going to go visit the saintly Chafetz Chaim. I want to go see him. Heard so many amazing things. And the Chafetz Chaim said, listen, I know of the Chafetz Chaim, and it's not worth going to Radin to see him. Let's just say it like that. There's other bigger rabbis that you can go see. Don't waste your time. If I were you, I would get off the train and go back home. Go visit, go get brachas, go get blessings from other rabbis. This man, when he hears that, again, he doesn't know that it's the Chafetz Chaim. He starts getting so angry. He starts yelling at this man in front of him. How dare you talk about the Chafetz Chaim like that? You're a nobody. You're going to go to Gehenna for saying that. Shame on you. How dare you derate a rabbi? And he gets up and he takes off his glove and he smacks the Chafetz Chaim on the face. Well, the Chafetz Chaim, you can imagine, just sat there, apologized, and the rest of the trip was very uneventful. Well, as they approached the city of Radin, the fellow, at one of the stops right before, the fellow noticed there was a group of Jews standing outside of the station. And the custom used to be that when the rabbi would travel from station to station, the trains would stop at each city. When the Jews would hear of a big rabbi on a certain train, all the Jews of that town would gather at the station and they would wait outside so that for the 10 minutes that the train is stopped, the rabbi would come out, he would give people brachot, give people advice, give a blessing, he would speak to them maybe. So you had two stations right before the city of Radin. This man notices all these Jews waiting outside the train station as the train starts pulling up to the station. And all of a sudden he notices that all the people are there gathered around. So he goes over, he says, why are there so many Jews? They say because the Chafetz Chaim is on the train and we want to get a bracha from him as he continues back home to his town of Radin. The guy says, what? The Chafetz Chaim is on the train? I was going to Radin to see the Chafetz Chaim. So he waits outside with all of these Jews. And all of a sudden he notices this short man emerging and everyone standing up and singing for him. And he realizes that this short man was the Chafetz Chaim, was the guy that he slapped on the face. Well, you can imagine this person's embarrassment. He starts crying. He runs over to the rabbi. He starts grabbing his hand to kiss it. And he starts smacking himself on the face. Rabbi, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I didn't know. I promise. I didn't know it was you. I realized you were being humble. I thought you were just putting him down. Please forgive me, Rabbi. I'll do whatever you want. The Chafetz Chaim said, forgive you. Forgive you. I have to thank you. The guy says, thank me. I don't know what you're talking about. The Chafetz Chaim explained. He says, I wrote a book on Lashon Hara, and I emphasized and I stressed how important it is not to speak negatively about other people. And that's something that I preached my whole life. But today, my friend, you taught me the biggest lesson of all. Today, you taught me that not only is it forbidden to speak negatively about others, but it's even forbidden to speak negatively about myself. And that is a very powerful lesson. A lot of times we say, no, I'm a nobody, I'm nothing. And we think that that's humility. That's not humility. Being humble is not thinking you're a nobody. Trust me, Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest, most humble person of all time, Moshe knew he was the goat. If you went over and you said, hey, Mr. Moses, are you the goat? Are you the greatest of all time? Mr. Moses, bechavod. Moshe would say, yes. Moshe would say, no, I'm nothing, I'm nobody. He wouldn't say that. He knew what he was. He knew what he accomplished. He knew he was the greatest prophet. Not a contradiction to be humble. Right? Being humble doesn't mean to not know your strengths. So a lot of times, people put themselves down. People see something negative in themselves, and they're kicking themselves. What's the matter with me? Why do I act like this? Why do these thoughts creep up into my head? Why can't I be happy for other people? Why am I so jealous? There must be something defected in me. What's the problem? What's the issue? Why am I so bad? Right? And one is not allowed to think like that. One cannot speak Lashon Hara even about oneself. This person comes to the Kohen and he has a plague in his house. There's mold on the walls. Well, you know what he says to the Kohen? He doesn't say there's a plague in my house. Because in life, you're not allowed to jump to conclusions. He says, there appears to be a problem. I'm not sure. There seems to be something wrong on the walls of my house. Can you come check it out? Lesson number 1. When we have a problem in our relationship, when we have a problem in our marriage, when there's something wrong in ourselves, we're not allowed to jump to conclusions and say, I have a problem. My spouse, they're this, they're that. One first has to come to a Kohen. One first has to come to a professional. One first has to get professional advice. Professional advice is not your mother. You cannot ask your mother about your husband. Okay, it's not good advice. Professional advice is not your great aunt who knew in the old country how to turn the coffee upside down and to read all the signs. That's not professional advice. Professional advice is professional advice. Okay? And we have to have that Kohen in our lives, that rabbi, that mentor, that guru, that person that we can call and ask when we have something going on. We have to have that person that we can call that's unbiased and ask them, there seems to be something here in my marriage. Can you help me? So that's step number 1. We can't jump to conclusions. We have to have a Kohen on our speed dial that we call when we're having issues. Another lesson. We turn to the Mishnah of course, what's the Masechet that deals with the laws of Tzaraat? Masechet Negaim. The tractate of affliction. Chapter 2. Take a look at an interesting Mishnah. En ro'im ha-negaim b'shaharit. A lot of interesting laws over here. And a lot of deep symbolism. But let's go, chapter 2. You're not allowed to, Kohen is not allowed to analyze the affliction early in the morning or late at night. Because obviously the shade is very important, right? Shade, the coloring, tiniest addition of light or lack of light could change the color. It could either appear too white or not white enough. So you have to look at it at the right time of the day. Chapter 2, Mishnah 3, Kohen hasuma be'ahat me'enav. A Kohen that's blind in one eye. Are you allowed to go to a Kohen that's blind in one eye and ask him to diagnose your affliction, your Tzaraat? A Kohen who can't see in one eye. Says the Mishnah, Lo yir'eh et hanegaim. Or, one of two things. Either he's blind in one eye, or his eyes are now dim. He can't see so well. He is not allowed to judge and diagnose the leprosy. And the question is, why not? We know that people that are blind in one eye are actually doubly gifted in the other eye. Right? People that are that are blind in both eyes. By the way, I don't know if you ever saw someone like that, but they are so talented. Their senses, their other four senses are super powerful, right? We had a judge from Michigan who came to speak, and he was blind, and it was one of the most beautiful speeches I ever heard in my life. This man, what an accomplished person, to be blind and to become not a lawyer, not a judge who sits on the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan. Can you imagine? What takes me and you to read 5 minutes a page takes him 45 minutes to read with his fingers. Okay, and this person spoke, and then after his lecture, which was amazing and beautiful, I believe we have it on our website. After his lecture, the person that brought him likes playing this game with him. He says, "Describe the room to us." And he says, "Well, if I had to guess, blind person, you ready?" He says, "Well, if I had to guess, the room is 20 by 40. He was on the money. He said there's probably wood along the walls. It's not painted, it's wood. He was on the money. He said the ceiling is probably around 8 feet high. On the money." Amazing that he was able to tell just from the echo and from the, just the sound waves kicking back, he was able to tell about the room. So people that are blind, their other senses are extra focused, right? Hyper focused is what we say. So why can a Kohen who is blind in one eye look at a Tzaraat? His other eye is double powerful. You know, there's a beautiful story. Rabbi Salanter was once approached by one of his Talmidim, and he was asked, "Rabbi, why do we have one mouth, we have one nose, all of a sudden we have two eyes? Why do we have two eyes?" And Rabbi Salanter responded, "We have two eyes, one to see the good in others, and the other to see the flaws in ourselves." And often in life, we do the exact opposite. We wake up in the morning, we look in the mirror, wow, what a good tzaddik I am, Hashem? Aren't you so lucky you have someone like me in this world, right? Beautiful. Look at this, God. If only all the Jews were like me. And we don't see our flaws. We do something that's maybe not so okay, but we're very quick to it's minor, it's no big deal. We come late to synagogue, we don't pray so well. Yeah, but it's good that I came. I had a late night, I have an excuse, Hashem understands. And then when somebody else is coming late, a minute after us, whoa, why are you late to shul? What's going on? Right? So it's so easy to judge other people, and says Rav Salanter, our job in life is to flip it, to learn to see the good in others, right? To learn to be a little bit more judgmental of ourselves, more honest with ourselves, so that we can improve. And the Mishnah is saying, if a person is blind in one eye, meaning if he can't use both of his eyes properly, then he is pasul. You're not a good Kohen. You're not going to be able to help people successfully in their relationships. And that is another amazing lesson, that if we want to have successful marriages, we need to be able to use our eyes the right way. We have to learn to see the good in others. I know that maybe that our spouse is not where we would like them to be. Maybe they're not as religious as we want them to be. Maybe they're not as considerate. Maybe they're not as friendly. Maybe they're not as emotional or sensitive. But we have to see the good. We have to flip the narrative. If we only could see with one eye, that's no good. Stories told about a lady that has a housekeeper. And the housekeeper does her best to clean the house. But this lady always comes home from work at the end of the day, and she's very frustrated. As much as the housekeeper cleans and dusts, but the dust is all over, the lady complains, please do a better job. If you could dust a little bit better. The next day she comes back, same problem. There's dust all over. The lady's going crazy. She buys her a new brush. She comes back the next day. Everything is the same, and she starts yelling at her housekeeper. I don't understand. I asked you 3 times to please dust properly. Why are you not listening to me? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm dusting well. Everything is spotless. It's shining. It's beautiful. The lady's like, there's dust all over. Everywhere I look, there's dust. I don't know. What you maybe check your eyes out. And all of a sudden, the maid stares at her, at this lady, the owner of the house, and she starts laughing. And the lady's like, you laughing at me? Well, don't you dare laugh at me. And she says, no, ma'am, look. And she grabs her glasses off of the lady. And she says, look, you have dust on your glasses. And then she puts them back on and she says, now take a look. And the lady looks and she says, wow, everything is spotless. The message is so beautiful. Sometimes we see other people and we see flaws in them. And a lot of times we have to remember that the flaw is not in them. The flaw is in our own lenses. There's something in us that we have to adjust, something in us that we need to change. A lot of times we're expecting, why are my kids acting up? Why are my employees not working to their best? Maybe we haven't done a good job in complimenting them. Maybe we haven't encouraged them. Maybe we're not noticing. Maybe we're not giving them the tools that they need to succeed. Maybe we're not giving our children the confidence. Instead of jumping down and saying, why is the house dusty? Why are you not behaving? Maybe we need to ask ourselves, is there something that we can do different? Is there something that we can do better in order to improve the relationships of the ones around us? So I think these are very powerful lessons in regards to the negaim. And just to end with one beautiful thought, our rabbis say the word nega, nun gimal ayin. If you flip it backwards, it also spells another word. Same letters, oneg, ayin, nun, gimel. And oneg means pleasure. If we have the right perspective and attitude and approach to how to approach our negaim, then we will be able to live lives of oneg, of pleasure. We will realize that maybe our marriages are a work in progress. It's not over. Maybe my relationship with my kids can be enhanced. Maybe the relationship with my employees, the people around me, my friends. If I take these necessary measures and steps, I can improve the relationships with the people around me, and I can turn every single nega that I have into a beautiful oneg, into something that's a delight and pleasurable and enjoyable. We should be zocheh to have those amazing onegs with every experience and relationship that we have. We'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.